Hello, hello, hello. Hi. How y'all doing? Already having chaos. The stream hasn't even started yet. But hi. There might be ads soon. I'm not sure because the ad manager got a little bit messy when the stream dropped. Oh my god, stream elements, you're a bit late. Hi, Akadu. Welcome in, welcome in. Think, I hope everything is working. Right. It's been a while. I feel like I need to find my voice again. I need to turn my mic down a bit. There we go. Uh, oh, Hero. Hi. I hope you're doing well. Where the fuck do I put this? You can go down there. Cool. What is happening in chat? I'm so confused. What the hell? Sure. Sure. Right. We are going back to reading some more of the Memoirs of Sherlock Holmes. Starting today with the. I should have looked up how to pronounce this because I feel like I'm going to have to say it a lot. It's the Reigate Squires. That's how I'm going to say it. Hi, Eden. Hello, hello, hello. Alright. Da, 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 da. There we go. Listen, y'all, you're grown ups. You can deal with your own fights, I'm sure. I'm an innocent bystander. To me, fast, quiet, you took my cookie. Okay, I'm gonna start reading. You guys figure that out. Oh my lord. Okay. The Reigate Squires. It was some time before the health of my friend Mr. Sherlock Holmes recovered from the strain caused by his immense exertions in the spring of '87. The whole question of the Netherlands Sumatra Company and of the colossal schemes of Baron Maupertuis are too recent in the minds of the public and are too intimately concerned with the politics and finance to be fitting subjects for this series of sketches. They led, however, in an indirect fashion to a singular and complex problem which gave my friend an opportunity of demonstrating the value of a fresh weapon among the many in which he waged his lifelong battle against crime. Words are hard. Words are harder when it's Old English Sherlock Holmes and these letters don't make no freaking sense. On referring to my notes, I see that it was upon the 14th of April that I received a telegram from Lyons which informed me that Holmes was lying ill in Hotel Toulon. Within 24 hours I was in his sick room. and was relieved to find that there was nothing formidable in his symptoms. Even his iron constitution, however, had broken down under the strain of an investigation which had extended over 2 months, during which period he had never worked less than 15 hours a day, and had more than once, as he assured me, kept to his task for 5 days at a stretch. Even the triumphant issue of his labours could not save him from the reaction after so terrible an exertion, and at a time when Europe was ringing with his name, and when his room was literally ankle deep with congratulatory telegrams, I found him a prey to the blackest depression. Even the knowledge that he had succeeded where the police of 3 countries had failed, and that he had outmaneuvered every point the most accomplished swindler in Europe, was insufficient to rouse him from his nervous prostration. Wait a damn minute. No, it should work. Did the redeem work? I didn't see. Please tell me it worked and I didn't break something somehow today. Where's my third? Worked? Okay, I just missed it then. But thank you. Mhm. 3 days later, we were back in Baker Street together, but it was evident that my friend would be much the better for a change, and the thought of a week of springtime in the country was full of attractions to me also. My old friend, Colonel Hayter, who had come from sorry, just Colonel Hater. Literally a professional hater, huh? Oh my god. My old friend, Colonel Hater, who had come under my professional care in Afghanistan, had now taken a house near Reigate in Surrey, and frequently asked me to come down to him upon a visit. Miss my reaction. Oh no. I mean, a lot of it was just letting you guys sort your own shit out. I can't derail the stream so early. I've just started. I'm just hoping my new mic settings are working properly. Da, 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 da. There we go. 3 days later, we were in the bake. No, I've read all of that. What the hell? How did I? There we go. On the last occasion, he had remarked that if my friend would only come with me, he would be glad to extend his hospitality to him also. A little diplomacy was needed, but when Holmes understood that the establishment was a bachelor one, and that he would be allowed the fullest freedom, he fell in with my plans, and a week after our return from Lyons we were under Colonel's roof. Hayter was a fine old soldier who had seen much of the world, and he soon found, as I had expected, that Holmes and he had much in common. On the evening of our arrival, we were sitting in the Colonel's gun-room after dinner, Holmes stretched upon the sofa, while Hayter and I looked over his little armory of Eastern weapons. By the way, said he suddenly, I think I'll take one of these pistols upstairs with me in case we have an alarm. An alarm, said I. Yes, we've had a scare in this part lately. Old Acton, who was one of our country magnates, had his house broken into last Monday. No great damage done, but the fellows are still at large. No clue? Asked Holmes, cocking his eye at the Colonel. None as yet, but the affair is a pretty one. One of our little country crimes, which must seem too small for your attention. think I hear a plane. It's a very loud, long plane. Weird. Okay. None as yet, but the affair is a pretty. No, oh my god, I keep losing my spot. Oh my god. Up. Oh no. The immediate loss. Oh no. Da-da-da-da-da. Holmes waved away the compliment, though his smile showed that it had pleased him. Was there any feature of interest? I fancy not. The thieves ransacked the library and got very little for their pains. The whole place was turned upside down, drawers burst open, and presses ransacked, with the result that an odd volume of Pope's Homer, two plated candlesticks, an ivory leather vase, a small oak barometer, and a ball of twine are all that have vanished. What an extraordinary assortment! I exclaimed. Oh, the fellows evidently grabbed a hold of everything they could get. Holmes grunted from the sofa. The county police ought to make something of that, said he. Why, it is surely obvious that. But I held up a warning finger. You are here for a rest, my dear fellow. For heaven's sake, don't get started on a new problem when all your nerves are in shreds. Holmes shrugged his shoulders with a glance of comic resignation towards the colonel, and the talk drifted away into less dangerous channels. It was destined, however, that all my professional caution should be wasted, for next morning the problem obtruded itself upon us in such a way that it was impossible to ignore, and our country visit took a turn which neither of us could have anticipated. We were at breakfast when the colonel's butler rushed in with all his propriety shaken out of him. Have you heard the news, sir? He gasped. At the Cunninghams, sir. Burglary, cried the colonel, with his coffee cup in midair. Murder. It's not funny, but it's funny. Murder. The colonel whistled. By Jove, said he. Who's killed then? The J.P. or his son? Neither, sir. It was William, the coachman. Shot through the heart, sir, and never spoke again. Who shot him then? The burglar, sir. He was off like a shot and got clean away. He just broke in the pantry window when William came upon him, and met his end in saving his master's property. What time? It was late. It was last night, sir, somewhere about 12. Ah, then, we'll step over afterwards, said the colonel, coolly setting down to his breakfast again. It's a baddish business, he added, when the butler had gone. He's our leading man about here, is old Cunningham, and a very decent fellow, too. He'll be cut up over this, for the man has been in his service for years, and was a very good servant. It's evidently the same villains who broke into Acton's and stole that very singular collection, said Holmes thoughtfully. Precisely. Hmm. It may not prove the simplest matter in the world, but all the same at first glance this is just a little curious, is it not? A gang of burglars acting in the country might be expected to vary the scene of their operations, and not to crack two cribs in the same district within a few days. When you spoke last night of taking precautions, I remembered that it passed through my mind that this was probably the last parish in England to which the thief or thieves would likely be turned to their attention, which shows that I have still much to learn. I fancy it's some local practitioner, said the Colonel. In that case, of course, Acton's and Cunningham's are just the places he would go, for, since they are far the largest about here, and the richest, well, they ought to be, but they've had a lawsuit for some years which has sucked the blood out of both of them, I fancy. Old Acton has some claim on half Cunningham's estate, and the lawyers have been at it with both hands. Ah, petty dispute. If it's a local villain, there should not be much difficulty in running him down, said Holmes, with a yawn. All right, Watson. I don't intend to meddle. Hi, hi, hi. It is indeed the Flower King himself. It's a bit weird. Welcome in. Thank you for the follow. I appreciate it. Oh, God. Oh no. Oh, okay. I know what it is. Brent would know what it is. It's his favorite thing. Hero. There you go. At this point, to be fair, I think Hero knows like the entire list. I really need to add more to it. It's a real word. That's a real word. Uh, Inspector Forrester, sir, said the butler, throwing open the door. The official, a smart, keen faced young fellow, stepped into the room. Good morning, Colonel, said he. I hope I don't intrude, but we hear that Mr. Holmes of Baker Street is here. The Colonel waved his hand towards my friend, and the inspector bowed. We thought that perhaps you would care to step across, Mr. Holmes. The fates are against you, Watson, said he, laughing. We were chatting about the matter when you came in, Inspector. Perhaps you can let us have a few details. As he leaned back in his chair in the familiar attitude, I knew that the case was hopeless. Someone give that man his point. We had no clue in the Acton affair, but here we have plenty to go on, and there's no doubt it is the same party in each case. The man was seen. Ah, yes, sir. But he was off like a deer after the shot that killed poor William Kirkwan was fired. Mr. Cunningham saw him from the bedroom window, and Mr. Alec Cunningham saw him from the back passage. It was 11:45 when the alarm broke out. Mr. Cunningham had just gotten into bed, and Mr. Alec was smoking a pipe in his dressing gown. We are reading the memoirs of Sherlock Holmes, specifically the Reigate Squires. You guys also do have, I believe this should work. And if it doesn't, wow, it didn't. What the hell? Maybe this also got messy when I restarted. When the stream restarted. The app's open. Wait, I'm gonna restart it. What is my luck today? One little internet crap out really messes up the whole stream, huh? Come on, Lurk Bait, you can do it. Okay, as it's connected. You guys saw it, said it's connected. Yeah. Okay, I fixed it. I'm a genius. We did it. Oh god, so much fishing. Right. Um, they both heard William the coachman calling for help, and Mr. Alec ran down to see what was the matter. The back door was open, and as he came to the foot of the stairs, he saw two men wrestling together outside. One of them fired a shot, the other dropped, and the murderer rushed across the garden and over the hedge. Mr. Cunningham, looking out of his bedroom, saw the fellow as he gained the road, but lost sight of him at once. Mr. Alex stopped to see if he could help the dying man, and so the villain got clean away. Beyond the fact that he was a middle-sized man and dressed in some dark stuff, we have no personal clue, but we are making some energetic inquiries, and if he is a stranger, we shall soon find him out. Oh, oh my god, there's so much chat happening. What was this William doing there? Did he say anything before he died? Not a word. He lives at the lodge. He lives at the lodge with his mother, and as he was a very faithful fellow, we imagined that he walked up to the house with the intention of seeing that all was right there. Of course, this Acton business has put everyone on their guard. The robber must have burst the door, opened the door. The lock has been forced when William came upon him. Did William say anything to his mother before going out? She is very old and deaf, and we can get no information from her. The shock has made her half-witted, but I understand that she was never very bright. There is one very important circumstance, however. Look at this. He took a small piece of torn paper out from the notebook and sprung it upon his knee, and spread it upon his knee, not sprung. Spread it upon his knee. This was found between the finger and thumb of the dead man. It appears to be a fragment torn from a larger sheet. You will observe that the hour mentioned upon it is the very time at which the poor fellow met his fate. You see that his murderer might have torn the rest of the sheet from him, or he might have taken this fragment from the murderer. It reads almost as though it were an appointment. Holmes took up the scrap of paper, a facsimile of which here is reproduced. They really actually included a little drawing of the paper. That's so cute. Hey, it's Boobo. I miss Boobo. Boobo. Specifically, it's Boobo as a viewer of the channel. No, I haven't seen him in a while, but I also haven't streamed in a while, so you know. I haven't seen you in a while either, Hero. Hope you've been good. Kitty. I think other than Sailor, Bubo, everything else is technically real words enough. So much work to do recently, but you're living. I feel that. I feel that in my soul right now. So much stuff going on, but it'll be fine. I'll get through it together. Right. Presuming that it is an appointment, continued the inspector, it is of course a conceivable theory that this William Curwan, though he had the reputation of being an honest man, may have been in league with the thief. He may have met him there, may have even helped him to break in the door, and then they may have fallen out between themselves. This writing is of extraordinary interest, said Holmes, who had been examining it with intense concentration. There are much deeper waters than I thought. He sank his head upon his hands, while the inspector smiled at the effect which his case had upon the famous London specialist. Your last remark, said Holmes presently, as to the possibility of there being an understanding between the burglar and the servant, and this being a note of appointment from one to the other, is an ingenious and not entirely impossible supposition. For this writing opens up. He sank his head into his hands again and remained for some minutes in the deepest thought. When he raised his face again, I was surprised to see that his cheek was tinged with colour, and his eyes as bright as before his illness. Sprang to his feet with all his old energy. I'll tell you what, said he. I should like to have a quiet little glance into the details of this case. There is something in it which fascinates me extremely. If you will permit me, Colonel, I will leave my friend Watson and you, and I will step round with the inspector to test the truth of one or two little fancies of mine. I will be with you again in half an hour. An hour and a half had elapsed before the inspector returned alone. You guys are going ham on the wordle today, goddamn. I need to add more words to the list, like edited, but it's been a while since I have. Mr. Holmes is walking up and down the field outside, said he. He wants us all four to go up to the house together. To Mr. Cunningham's? Yes, sir. What for? The inspector shrugged his shoulders. I don't quite know, sir. Between ourselves, I think Mr. Holmes had not quite got over his illness yet. He's been behaving very queerly, and he is very excited. Don't think you need to harm yourself, said I. Alarm yourself, not harm yourself. I have usually found that there was method in his madness. Some folks might say there was a madness in his method, murmured the inspector, but he's all on fire to start, Colonel, so we had best go out if you are ready. Ba-ba-da-ba-ba. Oh, it's got stuck again. No, it hasn't. Okay, bad. Oh my god, Taku. We found Holmes pacing up and down in the field, his chin sunk upon his breast, and his hands thrust into his trouser pockets. The matter grows in interest, said he. Watson, your country trip has been distinct success. I have had a charming morning. You have been up to the scene of the crime, I understand, said the colonel. Yes, said the inspector. Oh, for fuck's sake. Not again. I have been tortured by this yesterday. Yeah, thank God it's enough. Feeling my voice. Alright. Yes, the inspector and I have made quite a little reconnaissance together. Hey, any success? Well, we have seen some very interesting things. I'll tell you what we did as we walked. First of all, we saw the body of the unfortunate man. He certainly died from a revolver wound, as reported. Had you doubted it then? Oh, it is as well to test everything. Our inspection was not wasted. We then had an interview with Mr. Cunningham and his son, who were able to point out the exact spot where the murderer had broken through the garden hedge in his flight. That was of great interest. Naturally. Be there. Oh no, splinters. Rest in pieces. Then we had a look at this poor fellow's mother. We could get no information from her, however, as she is very old and feeble. And what is the result of your investigations? The conviction is the conviction the conviction that the crime is a very peculiar one. Perhaps our visit now may do something. Oh my god. Oh, oh. I can barely focus on the story myself, but this. Okay, what's the result of the investigations? What is Sherlock Holmes finding? Perhaps our visit now may do something to make it less obscure. I think that we are both agreed, Inspector, that the fragment of paper in the dead man's hand bearing, as it does, the very hour of his death written upon it is of extreme importance. Surprised you can read anything of that square on your face? I have laser eyesight, actually. I have X-ray vision. I can see through everything. Oh god. Hmm. It should give a clue, Mr. Holmes. It does give a clue. Whoever wrote that note was the man who brought William Kirkwan out of his bed at that hour. But where is the rest of that sheet of paper? I examined the ground carefully in the hope of finding it, said the inspector. It was torn out of the dead man's hand. But was why was someone so anxious to get possession of it? Because it incriminated him. And what would he do with it? Thrust it into his pocket, most likely, never noticing that a corner of it had been left in the grip of the corpse. We could get the rest of that sheet if we could get the rest of that sheet, it is obvious that we would have gone a long way towards solving the mystery. Yes, but how can we get the criminal's pocket before we catch the criminal? Well, well, it was worth thinking over. Then there is the obvious point. The note was sent to William. The man who wrote it could not have taken it. Otherwise, of course, he might have delivered his own message by word of mouth. Who brought the note then? Or did it come through the post? I had one yawn and now I'm just like struggling. Oh no, not all your fairy dust. Not almost all your fairy dust. I feel like all the gambling is rigged today. Everyone's losing. Hi, Ham. Welcome in, welcome in. I hope you're having a very good morning. Mm-hmm. Okay. Oh, wait. I was like, why is the white square not going away? It's not been nerfed on this model because I use a different one when I do ASMR. Whoopsie. Okay. It should be fixed now. That's not the button that I want to press. I want my chat back, please. There we go. Woke up to an eventful morning to helping my mom catch the cats for their appointment. Oh boy. That sounds like a lot of fun. Okay, back to the story. I have made inquiries that the inspector, William, received a letter by the afternoon post yesterday. The envelope was destroyed by him. Excellent, cried Holmes, clapping the inspector on the back. You've seen the postman. It is a pleasure to work with you. Well, here is the lodge, and if you will come up, Colonel, I will show you the scene of the crime. We passed the pretty cottage where the murdered man had lived, and walked up an old oak-lined avenue to the fine old Queen Anne house, which bears the date of Mal placket upon the lintel of the door. Holmes and the inspector led us round until we came to the side gate, which is separated by a stretch of garden from the hedge which lines the road. A constable was standing at the kitchen door. Throw the door open, officer, said Holmes. Now it was on those stairs that young Mr. Cunningham stood and saw the two men struggling just where we are. Old Mr. Cunningham was at that window, the second on the left, and he saw the fellow get away to the left of that bush. So did the son. They are both sure of it on account of the bush. Then Mr. Alec ran out and knelt beside the wounded man. The ground is very hard, you see, and there are no marks to guide us. As he spoke, two men came down the garden path from round the angle of the house. The one was an elderly man, with a strong, deep-lined, heavy-eyed face. The other, a dashing young fellow, whose bright, smiling expression and showy dress were in strange contrast with the business which had brought us here. Still at it, then, said he to Holmes. I thought you Londoners were never at fault. You don't seem to be so very quick after all. Oh, you must give us a little time, said Holmes good humorously. You'll want it, said young Alec Cunningham. Why, I don't see that we have any clue at all. There is only one, answered the inspector. We thought that if we could only find— Good heavens, Mr. Holmes, what's the matter? My poor friend's face had suddenly assumed the most dreadful expression. His eyes rolled upwards, his features writhed in agony, and with a suppressed groan he dropped his face upon the ground. Horrified at the suddenness and severity of the attack, we carried him into the kitchen, where he lay back in a large chair and breathed heavily for some minutes. Finally, with a shamefaced apology for his weakness, he rose once more. What the actual fuck just happened? My god, Sherlock, why are you like this? Bro, just chill. You could have taken like maybe a couple extra days to solve the mystery, you know? um, alright, sorry, I got distracted a little bit. No worries, Tom. I hope you enjoy and get a good night's rest. Sleep well. I lost my spot. What the fuck was I reading? Holmes just passed out. Uh, there. Watson would tell you that I've only just recovered from a severe illness, he explained. I am liable to these sudden nervous attacks. Shall I send you home in my trap? Asked old Cunningham. Well, since I am here, there is one point on which I should like to feel sure. We can very easily verify it. What is it? Well, that it is just possible that the arrival of this poor fellow William was not before, but after the entrance of the burglary into the house. You appear to take it for granted that, although the door was forced, the robber never got in. I fancy that is quite obvious, said Mr. Cunningham gravely. Why, my son Alec had not yet gone to bed, and he would certainly have heard anyone moving about. We're at the part where they kill aliens. Aliens? In my Sherlock Holmes mystery? More likely than you think. I don't know if I am making this up, but I think there is a. It might not be a Sherlock one. Um, but what's it called? I remember playing a Sherlock Holmes game, like a video game, that had like supernatural elements in it. I think it had like ghosts and stuff. I don't know if it's 100% based off of a book, but I remember that game because it was creepy. It gave me the heebie jeebies. Uh, uh, okay. Futuristic Sherlock Holmes show. It's kind of just like Doctor Who. I love fucked up Sherlock Holmes stuff. I've played most of the video games, I believe. I had a real big phase of them. Okay. He would certainly have heard anyone moving about. Where was he sitting? I was smoking in my dressing room. Which window is that? The last one on the left next to my father's. Both of your lamps were lit, of course. Undoubtedly. There are some very singular points here, said Holmes, smiling. It is not extraordinary that a burglary and a burglar who had some previous experience should deliberately break into a house at a time when he could see from the light that two of the family were still afoot. He must have been a cool hand. Well, of course. If the case were not an odd one, we should not have been driven to ask you for an explanation, asked young Mr. Halleck. But as to your ideas that the man had robbed the house before William tackled him, I think it a most absurd notion. Wouldn't we have found the place disarranged and missed the things which had been taken? And Blaine is slowing down. Yeah, I think it's time for you to get some sleep too then. It depends on what the things were, said Holmes. You must remember that we are dealing with a burglar who is a very peculiar fellow, and who appears to work on the lines of his own. Look, for example, at the queer lot of things which he took from Atkins. What was it? A ball of string, a leather weight, and I don't know what other odds and ends. Honestly, a little bit tired. I might go back to sleep. That is so completely valid, Ham. It is very early in the morning. I hope you have good sleep if you are going back to sleep. And thanks for stopping by. Just a bunch of pens. You get a founder's badge. I was cleaning out my like list. And there's a lot of people that aren't subscribed anymore, so I took theirs away. And it carried over to you. Yay! You're a founder now. That means you were still in like the top 12 or 13, I think. The first 12 or 13 subscribers. Yeah, you'll always be special. Mhm. Well, we are quite in your hands, Mr. Holmes, said old Cunningham. Anything which you or the inspector may suggest will most certainly be done. In the first place, said Holmes, I should like you to offer a reward. Coming from yourself, the officials may take a little time before they would agree upon the sum, and these things cannot be done too promptly. I have jotted down the form here, if you would not mind signing it. £50 is quite enough, I think. No worries. I hope you enjoy your sleep. This world is killing you. Oh my god. Is it? Oh, it's. Come on, Agadoo. You know the word. Hi, Johnny. I hope you enjoy. There we go. I would will. Oh my god. I would willingly give 500, said the JP, taking the slip of paper and the pencil which Holmes handed him. This is not quite correct, however, he added, glancing over the document. Hi, Rose. Hi, hi, hi. Welcome in. I hope you're having a wonderful day. I'm being held here against my will. Lovely, now they're just screaming, "Aww." That's so sweet. Thank you. What is this, Riz? I, be- I believe this is what they might call Riz. Mhm. I wrote it, um, this is not quite correct, however, he added, glancing over the document. I wrote it rather hurriedly. Thank you, Rose. You see, you begin, whereas about At about a quarter to 1 on Tuesday morning, an attempt was made, and so on. It was at quarter to 12, as a matter of fact. I was pained at the mistake, for I knew how keenly Holmes would feel at any slip of the kind. It was his speciality to be accurate as to the fact, but his recent illness had shaken him, and this one little incident was enough to show me that he was still far from being himself. He was obviously embarrassed for an instant, while the inspector raised his eyebrows, and Alec Cunningham burst into a laugh. The old gentleman corrected the mistake, however, and handed the paper back to Holmes. Get it printed as soon as possible, he said. I think your idea is an excellent one. Holmes put the slip of paper carefully into his pocketbook. And now, said he, it really would be a good thing that we should all go over the house together and make certain that this rather erratic burglar did not, after all, carry away anything with him. Before entering, Holmes had made an exclamation at the door which had been forced. It was evident. It was evident that a chisel or strong knife had been thrust in, and the lock forced back with it. We could see the marks in the wood where it had been pushed in. You don't use bars, then? He asked. We have never found it necessary. You don't keep a dog? Yes, but he is chained on the other side of the house. Oops, I forgot to mute myself. Oh my god. Right. When did servants go to bed? About 10. I understand that William was usually in bed also at that hour. Yes. It is singular that on this particular night he should have been up. Now, I should be very glad if you would have the kindness to show us over the house, Mr. Cunningham. A stone flagged passage, with the kitchens branching away from it, led by a wooden staircase directly to the first floor of the house. It came out upon the landing opposite to a second, more ornamental stair which came from the front hall. Out of the landing opened the drawing room, and several bedrooms, including those of Mr. Cunningham and his son. Holmes walked slowly, taking keen note of the architecture of the house. I could tell from his expression that he was on a hot scent, and yet I could not in the least imagine what direction his inferences were leading him. My good sir, said Mr. Cunningham with some impatience, this is surely very unnecessary. That is my room at the end of the stairs, and my son's is the one beyond it. I leave it to your judgment whether it was possible for the thief to have come up here without disturbing us. Oh no, the loss that was bound to hit. Uh, there we go. I kept losing where I was. You must try round and get on a fresh scent, I fancy, said the son with a rather malicious smirk. Still, I must ask you to humour me a little further. I should like, for example, to see how far the windows of the bedroom command the front. This, I understand, is your son's room. He pushed open the door, and that, I presume, is the dressing room in which he sat smoking when the alarm was given. Where does the window of that look out to? He stepped across the bedroom, pushed open the door, and glanced into the other chamber. I think that you are satisfied now, said Mr. Cunningham tartly. Thank you. I think that I have seen all that I wish. Then if it then if it is really necessary, we can go into my room. If it's not too much trouble. J.B. shrugged his shoulders. and led the way into his own chamber, which was plainly furnished in commonplace room. As we moved across it in the direction of the window, Holmes fell back until he and I were the last of the group. Near the foot of the bed stood a dish of oranges and a carafe of water. As we passed it, Holmes, to my unutterable astonishment, leaned over in front of me and deliberately knocked the whole thing over. The glass smashed into 1,000 pieces and the fruit rolled about in every corner of the room. What the hell, Holmes? What is happening in this man's head? You've done it now, Watson, said he coolly. A pretty mess you've made of the carpet. I stooped in some confusion and began to pick up the fruit, understanding for some reason my companion desired me to take the blame upon myself. The others did the same and set the table on its legs again. Hello, cried the inspector. Where's he got to? Holmes had disappeared. Wait here an instant, said young Alice Cunningham. The fellow is off his head, in my opinion. Come with me, father, and see where he has got to. They rushed out of the room, leaving the inspector, the colonel, and me staring at each other. On my word, I am inclined to agree with Master Alex, said the official. It may be the effect of this illness, but it seems to me that his words were cut short by a sudden scream of help, help, murder. What the hell? With a thrill, I recognized the voice as that of my friend. I rushed madly from the room onto the landing. The cries, which sunk down into a hoarse, inarticulate shouting, came from the room which we had first visited. I dashed in, and on into the dressing room beyond. The two Cunninghams were bending over the prostrate figure of Sherlock Holmes, the younger clutching his throat with both hands, while the elder seemed to be twisting one of his wrists. In an instant, the three of us had torn them away from him, and Holmes staggered to his feet, very pale and evidently greatly exhausted. What the actual fucking Christ is going on? Arrest these men, Inspector, he gasped. On what charge? On that of murdering their coachman, William Carwan. The inspector stared about him in bewilderment. Oh, come now, Mr. Holmes, said he at last. I'm sure you don't really mean to. But, man, look at their faces, cried Holmes curtly. Never, certainly, have I ever seen a plainer confession of guilt upon human countenances. The older man seemed numbed and dazed with a heavy sullen expression upon his strongly marked face. The son, on the other hand, had dropped all that jaunty, dashing style which had characterized him, and the ferocity of a dangerous wild beast gleamed in his dark eyes and distorted his handsome features. The inspector said nothing, but, stepping into the door, he blew his whistle. Two of his constables came at the call. I could do really just wordling. Yeah, but it's cute. I'm glad that you're having fun with it. Kakadu. I have no alternative, Mr. Cunningham, said he. I trust that this may all prove to be an absurd mistake. Ah, but you can see that. Ah, did you drop it? He struck out with his hand, and a revolver, which the younger man was in the act of cocking, clattered upon the floor. Keep that, said Holmes quietly, putting his foot upon it. You will find it useful at the trial. But this is what we really wanted. He held up a little crumpled piece of paper. The remainder of the sheet, cried the inspector. Precisely. And where was it? For I was sure it must be. I'll make the whole matter clear to you presently. I think, Colonel, that you and Watson might return now, and I will be with you again in half an hour at the furthest. The inspector and I must have a word with the prisoners, but you will certainly see me back at lunchtime soon. What the fuck? Insane. Taco. Oh, your riddle evolved? What does Weedle evolve into? Is it Butterfree? No, it's the cocoon, right? It's one of the cocoon ones. Is it three step? Is it? I think so. Hmm. We really need to finish the black two Nuzlocke. Kakuna, yeah, so the cocoon one. I know it's not Snorlax. You can't fool me. Sherlock Holmes is as good as his word. For about 1 o'clock he rejoined us in the Colonel's smoking room. He was accompanied by a little elderly gentleman who was introduced to me by Mr. Acton, whose house had been at the scene of the original burglary. Hi, 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 Nevio, welcome in, welcome in. Taku, no. Okay. I wish Mr. Acton to be present while I demonstrated the small matter to you, said Holmes, for it is natural that he should take a keen interest in the details. I am afraid, my dear Colonel, that you must regret the hour that you took in such a stormy petrel as I am. On the contrary, answered the Colonel warmly, I consider it my greatest privilege to have been permitted to study your methods of working. I confess that they quite surpass my expectations, and that I am utterly unable to account for your results. I have not yet seen the vestige of a clue. I am afraid that my explanation may disillusion you, but it has always been my habit to hide none of my methods, either from my friend Watson or from anyone who might take an intelligent interest in them. But first, as I am rather shaken by the knocking about which I had in the dressing room, I think I shall help myself to a dash of your brandy, Colonel. My strength had been rather tired of late. I trust that you had no more of those nervous attacks. Sherlock Holmes laughed heartily. We will come to that in its turn, said he. I will lay an account of the case before you in its due order, showing you the various points which guided me in my decision. Pray interrupt me if there is any inference which is not perfectly clear to you. It is of the highest importance in the art of detection to be able to recognize out of a number of facts which are incidental and which are vital. Otherwise, your energy and attention must be dissipated instead of being concentrated. Now, in this case, there was not a single doubt in my mind from the first that the key of the whole matter must be looked for in the scrap of paper in the dead man's hand. Mm, my eye is itchy. Okay. Before going into this, I would draw at your attention the fact that if Alex Cunningham's narrative was correct, and if the assailant, after shooting William Corwan, had instantly fled, then it obviously could not be he who tore the paper from the dead man's hand. But if it was not he, it must have been Alec Cunningham himself, for by the time that the old man had descended, several servants were upon the scene. The point is a simple one, but the inspector had overlooked it because he had started with the supposition that these county magnates had had nothing to do with the matter. Now I make a point of never having any prejudices, and of following docilely wherever fact may lead me. And so, in the very first stage of the investigation, I found myself looking a little askance at the part which had been played by Mr. Alec Cunningham. And now I made a very careful examination of the corner of the paper which the inspector had submitted to us. It was at once clear to me that it formed part of a very remarkable document. Here it is. Do you not now observe something very suggestive about it? His very irregular looks at the colonel. My dear sir, cried Holmes, there cannot be the least doubt in the world that it has been written by two persons doing alternate words. When I draw your attention to the strong T's of and two, and ask you to compare them with the weak ones of quarter and 12, you will instantly recognize the fact. A very brief analysis of these four words would enable you to say with the utmost confidence that the learn and the maybe are written in the stronger hand, and the what in the weaker. By Jove, it's as clear as day, cried the colonel. Why on earth should two men write a letter in such a fashion? Obviously, the business was a bad one, and one of the men who distrusted the other was determined that, whatever was done, each should have an equal hand in it. Now, of the two men, it is clear that the one who wrote the at and to was the ringleader. How do you get that? We might deduce it from the mere character of the one who is compared to the other, but we have more assured reasons for that than supposing it. If you examine this scrap with attention, you will come to the conclusion that the man with the stronger hand wrote all his words first, leaving blanks for the other to fill up. These blanks were not always sufficient, and you can see that the second man had a squeeze to fit his quarter between the at and the to, showing that the latter were already written. The man who wrote all his words first is undoubtedly the man who planned the affair. Excellent, cried Mr. Acton. But very superficial, said Holmes. We come now, however, to a point which is of importance. You may not be aware that the deduction of a man's age from his writing is one of which has been brought to considerable accuracy by experts. In normal cases, one can place a man in his true decade with a tolerable confidence. I say normal cases because ill health and physical weakness reproduce the signs of old age, even when the invalid is a youth. In this case, looking at the bold, strong hand of one and the rather broken backed appearance of the other, which still retains its legibility, although the T's have begun to lose their crossing, we can say that one was a young man, and the other was advanced in years without being positively decrepit. Excellent, cried Mr. Acton again. There is a further point, however, which is subtler and of greater interest. There is something in common between these hands. They belong to men who are blood relatives. It may be most obvious to you in the Greek e's, but to me there are many small points at which indicate the same thing. I have no doubt at all that family mannerism can be traced in these two specimens of writing. I am only, of course, giving you the leading results now of my examination of the paper, which were 23 other deductions. There were 23 other deductions which would be of more interest to experts to you. They all tended to deepen the impression upon my mind that the Cunninghams, father and son, had written this letter. Hmm. Having got so far, my next step was, of course, to examine into the details of the crime and see how far they would help us. I went up the house with the inspector and saw all there was to be seen. The wound upon the wo- the wound upon the dead man was, as I was able to determine with absolute confidence, fired from a revolver at the distance of some over 4 yards. There was no powder blackening on the clothes. Evidently, therefore, Alec Cunningham had lied when he said that the two men were struggling when the shot was fired. Flower, you choose my starter. Trico, Mudkip, or Torchic? Always Torchic. Always Torchic. Always the fire starter. I love Torchic. I don't like Torchic's evolutions as much, but I love Torchic. It's so cute. That's just a tree, though. Isn't it just like a tree gecko or something like that? Mhm. Mhm. Project time. Yeah. Mhm. Okay. Uh, Again, both father and son agreed as to the place where the man had escaped into the road. At that point, however, as it happens, there is a broadish ditch, moist at the bottom. As there was no indications of boot marks about this ditch, I was absolutely sure not only that the Cunninghams had lied again, but that there had never been any unknown man upon the scene at all. And now I have to consider the motive of this singular crime. To get at this, I endeavored first of all to solve the reason of the original burglary at Mr. Acton's. I understood from something which the Colonel told us that a lawsuit had been going on between you, Mr. Acton, and the Cunninghams. Of course, it instantly occurred to me that they had broken into your library with the intention of getting some document which might be of importance to the case. Hi, hi, hi. Thank you for the follow, Agent '09. Welcome in, welcome in. I hope you enjoy your stay. Need a nickname for Torchic? Uh, uh, Name it Flower. I'm, I'm so bad with names. Asking me for name suggestions is genuinely the worst idea. That's the wrong tab, girl. What the hell? Okay, no, I want my browser. There we go. I don't think I've ever used Mudkip. Oh, thanks for the hydrate. Precisely so, said Mr. Acton. There can be no possible doubt as to their intentions. I have the clearest claim upon a half of their present estate, and if they could have found a single paper, which, fortunately, was in the strong box of my solicitors, they would undoubtedly have crippled our case. There you are, said Holmes, smiling. It was a dangerous, reckless attempt, in which I seemed to trace the influence of young Alec. Having found nothing, they tried to divert suspicion by making it appear to be an ordinary burglary, to which end they carried off whatever they could lay their hands upon. That is all clear enough. There was much that was still obscure. What I wanted above all was to get the missing part of that note. I was certain that Alec had torn it out of the dead man's hand, and almost certain that he must have thrust it into the pocket of his dressing gown. Where else could he have put it? The only question was whether it was still there. It was worth an effort to find out. And, and for that object we all went up to the house. The Cunninghams had joined us, as you doubtless remember, outside the kitchen door. It was, of course, of the very first importance that they should not be reminded of the existence of this paper, otherwise they would naturally destroy it without delay. The inspector was about to tell them the importance which we attached to it when, by the luckiest chance in the world, I tumbled in down in a sort of fit, and so changed the conversation. Ah, I knew that his paintingness must have been fake, but I didn't realize that was the reason. God, Sherlock, you keep diverting my expectations every time. Good heavens, cried the colonel, laughing. You mean to say all our sympathy was wasted in your fit and imposture? Speaking professionally, it was admirably done, cried I, looking in amazement at this man who was forever confounding me with some new phase of his astuteness. It is an art which is often useful, said he. When I recovered, I managed, by a device which had perhaps some little merit of ingenuity, to get old Cunningham to write the word 12, that I might compare it with the 12 upon the paper. Oh, what an ass I have been! I exclaimed. I could see that you were commiserating with me over my weakness, said Holmes, laughing. I was sorry to cause you the sympathetic pain which I know that you felt. We then went upstairs together, and having entered the room and seen the dressing gown hanging upon the door, I contrived, by upsetting a table, to engage their attention for a moment, and slipped back in to examine the pocket. I had hardly got the paper, however, which was, as I had expected, in one of them, when the two Cunninghams were on me, and would, I verily believe, have murdered me then and there, but for your prompt and friendly aid. As it is, I feel that the young man's grip on my throat now, and the father has twisted my wrist round in the effort to get the paper out of my hand. They saw that I must know all about it, you see, and the sudden change from absolute security to complete despair made them perfectly desperate. Perfectly desperate. I had a little talk with old Cunningham afterwards to the motive of the crime. He was tractable enough, though his son was a perfect demon, ready to blow out his own or anybody else's brains if he could have got to his revolver. Hi, Manic. Welcome in, welcome in. How you doing this fine morning? Oh, got something in my eye. Alright, been good, just getting ready for work. Nice, nice. No, I'm doing good. I'm very sleepy today, so this is probably gonna be a short stream. I think, yeah, we're like almost done with the story, so I'll probably end stream after that. Um, there's so much work to do today. But I might stream again in the evening. Maybe. Don't take my word for it. It depends on how much commission work I can manage to get done. If I'm productive enough, I will stream again. And we can play Pokopia. Because there is no Stardew Valley stream again. Which, to be fair, has some unfortunate circumstances attached to it. Um, some of the members are struggling a bit. So it's not a great thing. But yeah, it's a bit rough. So we can either do Pokopia. Yeah. But then I can't stream tomorrow. Pokopia, but chat is normal challenge. Hey, that's a very good stream title actually. Chat tries to be normal challenge. Oh my gosh. You with a headband. Alright, let's finish off the story. Let's see what the conclusion is. Um, right. When Cunningham saw that the case against him was so strong, he lost all heart and made a clean breast of everything. Man, wait, that's the. I love that emote. The punching one is so cute. I wanna, I wanna make one like that. I'm just gonna grab a thing really quick. 'Cause I wanna make an emote like that. That's cute as hell. Love it, yeah. You use it quite often. But, yeah. It seems that William has secretly followed his two masters on the night when they made their raid upon Mr. Acton's, and having thus got them into his power, proceeded under threats of exposure to levy blackmail upon them. Mr. Alec, however, was a dangerous man to play games with of that sort. Da, 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 da. Sorry, I just had a quick little text. That Coke. Did my you guys saw nothing? Wait, my eyes do. Nothing happened. Nothing happened. I know what you're talking about. Everything's perfectly fine. Everything's normal. Chat, chat. Everything's perfectly normal. Everything's fine. You saw nothing. Okay? Just, I need to turn that toggle off. No, act two. Poor Tom's asleep. Cut for life. I can make it worse. There's so many fun toggles. Because I can make my eyes go wobbly. I will skip that one. Is it? No. Anyways, I can't be doing, we need to finish the story. Stop cracking me up. Anyways, um, uh, yes. Mr. Alec, however, was a dangerous man to play games with of that sort. It was a stroke of positive genius on his part to see him in the burglary scare, of his part to see in the burglary scare, which was convulsing the countryside, an opportunity of plausibly getting rid of the man whom he feared. William was equally up in short, and they had only got a hold of the note and paid a little more attention to detail in the accessories, it was very possible that the suspicion might have never been aroused. And the note? I asked. Sherlock Holmes placed the subjoined paper before us. I wish I could read that, but I can't. It's like scanned, so it's super blurry. If you will only come something at quarter to 12 to the east gate, you will learn what all very much something and maybe be of the greatest assistance to you and also to your mother. Something, 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 willing to anyone upon the matter. Yeah, that does not make any sense. It is very much the sort of thing that I expected, said he. Of course, we do not yet know what the relations may have been between Alec Cunningham, Mr. Kirwan, and Annie Morrison. The results show that the trap was skillfully baited. Who the fuck is Annie Morrison? Oh, I think she's named in the letter. Okay. I was like, who the hell is she? Where did she come from? The result shows that the trap was skillfully baited. I am sure that you cannot fail to be delighted with the traces of heredity shown in the P's and in the tails of the D's. The absence of the eye dots in the old man's writing is also most characteristic. Watson, I think our quiet rest in the country has been a distinct success, and I shall certainly return much invigorated to Baker Street tomorrow. That's the end of the story. Ooh, yippee. I don't know how much I enjoyed that one. It was a bit lackluster, a bit meh. Some of the stories can be quite fun, but some of them I'm like, oh, okay, a bit boring. Maybe I should pick up one of the novels instead. Oh, I should. I'll try to remember today to update the word list so we've got more words on it now because it's quite old. Like the list at the moment's been a while. Read A Midsummer's Night's Dream by William Shakespeare. I had to study that shit in school. I don't want to read it on stream. Hi, Apocalyptic. Hi. Alice in Wonderland would be a wonderful read. Is Alice in Wonderland the public domain? Probably, right? Oh my god. Hagadu. Thank you for the gifted sub. Ah, thank you. Yeah, yeah, yeah. More friends join the army. It's not an army, but you know. I just gotta look up. Mm, okay. The Alice in Wonderland books are in public domain. I At some point in my life I've probably read them, but I don't really remember. So maybe you could read that. Agadu's a sweetheart. An absolute sweetheart. Yeah, like I've definitely read Alice in Wonderland because I used to really like the story. And I've watched the Tim Burton film so many times. You remember like every book you read in high school? I don't. There was a shit. There was a Shakespeare every year. I remember that. And then there was some other book usually. I know we did. Shit. I don't remember the name, but it's the race. It's the um To Kill a Mockingbird. There we go. I was like, what is the name of that goddamn book? Yeah, To Kill a Mockingbird. We did that in school once. We did The Hobbit. That was good. I enjoyed reading The Hobbit's book. I do not like the movies, but I enjoyed the book. Yeah, we only have reading them in grade 7, 8, and 9. Oh, I had to give my exams on Shakespeare. I remember I've done Macbeth, Midsummer Night's Dream, Much Ado About Nothing, um, and there was a fourth one, but I don't remember. And my favorite is Much Ado About Nothing because it's so funny and it's so silly. Remember Esperanza Rising? Never heard of that one. Pff, the what's it called? I should probably because so I've been purposefully reading the Sherlock Holmes short stories because I know at the very least I can read like start and finish a story every stream, if not two, if I'm feeling up for it. I think there's been streams where I've read like multiple. Um, I'm scared of starting a book because my commitment issues. I'm worried about starting it and getting bored and then just like never finishing it. The Giver? I've heard that one. I think I've heard of the name. See, I am not reading Stephen King. That shit's terrifying. Also, I don't think his books would be the public domain. So, like, anything I read has to be in the public domain, or it doesn't quite work out. It's not technically legal for me to read stuff that isn't. What's this? Um, hmm, that might be a thing I can do. Okay, that's for later. Just claim you own a copy of the book. That's not how it works. Lovecraft? Can we do something like The Color Out of Space? I've never actually read any Lovecraft, and I've always been kind of scared of it. I should write all these down so I can like look at them after stream. But hey, I think Good Omen, the gay, the gay, the gay one. Do you think I can read fan fiction on stream? I think do you think Twitch will let me do that? Is that legal? I would love to read fan fiction on stream. uh, I should write fan fiction again. AO3 will get you banned. Hmm. I'll have a think about stuff. I'm still trying to figure out like my stream schedule and things like that because we've got so many games coming out. I think tomorrow night won't be a stream because I'm unsure if I'm gonna have D&D or not, but I'm gonna say no stream for now, but I will be live on Friday. But again, I think I have so many commissions due that are all within the next 2 weeks, so I need to lock the fuck in. There might not be D&D because Tom can't make it. He didn't, and I can't really just take a player out of a fight. You were in the middle of a fight. No, no, don't be mean. Something probably happened. I am the DM. I play in and DM multiple campaigns, three of which are with the same group of friends. So I'm doing a short, high level Deathly campaign at the moment. It's like dangerous as fuck, and also they're fighting gods, corrupted gods, but gods nonetheless. Made it short. You've only had like 4 sessions, and you've only got like 4 more. And the end's already planned, and it's gonna be fun. only been like 8 weeks. Yeah. We had a couple weeks in the middle we couldn't do it. What the fuck, Taku? What the fuck? I think it's time for bed. I think it's time for you to go to bed. It makes it worse that you were 14. What were you guys doing? The hell? Oh my gosh. Okay. Okay. I need to end stream before this goes completely out of hand. But I oh, I appreciate you guys being here very, very much. It was Taco last stream. Yeah. Um I need to find someone to read out to. Let's see. Who's live? Who of my friends are live? Hey, please, friend. I miss her. Mm. Mm. Oh no. Oh no, no, no. Mm. Why? I gotta stop choosing odd times to stream because nobody else is live, really. Have to work. Bye. Hope you have a good day. Oh, okay. Found someone. Let's go. Wait, no, never mind. Their stream's ending. I'm gonna find someone for sure. I do like this person though. They're cute. I'm gonna follow them for later. That's for later. God damn it, my luck. I will find someone. We will do this. Um, come on. Oh, oh, I think I know this person. Okay, got it. Hi, Ham. We're about to go to bed. Well, no, that's the wrong thing to say. I'm gonna go to work. And I hope you guys have a fun rest of your day. Might be live again in a few hours if I'm good and productive. Because I'm in a yappy mood today. But hey, thank you guys for joining. I hope you had a very wonderful time. I hope you guys have a very lovely rest of your day. All right, bye bye.